This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point, Shea Stadium.
Now, obviously, Ohtani is going to be hard to break, but what does Lindor have to do to kind of shrink that gap to make people think, do we give this guy the vote over Ohtani?
I think there's a couple of things. I think first off, I think the Mets have to make the playoffs. They're going to vote at the end of the season. At some time, they have to make the playoffs. The Mets don't make the playoffs. I think even if it's not as good. I talked about this, before, having a David Wright 07 end of the year, having a Mike Piazza 98 September. Maybe not to the levels of those two guys. Those two guys were out of their mind good, but a really good September that aligns with what we've seen since June 1st with him and the Mets making the postseason. Because the Mets make the postseason, but he fizzles out, that's going to be something they look at. And then the third component will be the voters and how they view 50-50 if Ohtani could get there. Because let's be fair, 50-50 with the new rules, the bigger bases, the home runs are the home runs. Those are, what you want to say that there's a live ball. There were live balls in the 80s. Look at the stats in 1987 on home runs. They've been screwing around with the baseball forever. And the stolen bases are now easier. They're not quite three-pointers like the commodities, but they've made the rules easier to bring the stolen base back to where it was, not to another level. And how they view that, a guy that has no position, did not pitch this year, was a DH, 50-50. I saw somebody in the comments write, well, without him, the Dodgers still make the playoffs. Without Lindor, the Mets don't. That's fair. I don't know how the voters would ascertain that. Maybe they add that into it. I think he's got a shot, but it is extraordinary that here he is playing an elite shortstop at a premium position, doing what he's doing offensively at the position. And Ohtani is right there without ever fielding in win shares. So it tells you how good Ohtani's been. It really has. As obnoxious as that whole free agent process was, and how give him credit for giving the money away, but how annoying that was, and then the whole gambling thing, which to this day I think still smells bad. I don't get it. I don't know how you could I don't know about you guys, but I don't know how many people could just take money out of my account, even if I'm really, really rich, and not have like an idea about it. And I've talked to people who do wire transfers, and they're like, I've done wire transfers. It's not that easy. So anyway, that's another story for another show. But anyway, give him credit. 50-50 is a huge accomplishment. He's got that LeBron James factor with the voters. Do they have fatigue with giving it to him? Do they ding him for the gambling, for not speaking to the media? Think about how the Mets got screwed in 88 with Kirk Gibson because nobody liked the Mets. And McReynolds and Strawberry split the vote.
07 too with Wright. I think I know they didn't make the playoffs, but his
Jimmy Rollins
statistically was better than Jimmy Rollins. And if they're going to do that, where you make the playoffs and the Mets make the playoffs, that only favors, I think, Lindor.
I don't think Lindor is going to get. I think Lindor could have a big September. The Mets make the playoffs. And unless Ohtani falls short of 50-50, which could happen, look, home runs are streaky. Maybe they start resting him a little bit down the stretch. I don't know what the Dodgers are planning. I don't know what the guy's health is. He's been DHing all year. I think Lindor has a better shot if he doesn't hit 50-50. But if he hits 50-50 and all the other stuff happen, I think it's going to be really hard for the voters not to vote him in. I know the MVP is not the best offensive player. It's the best player, but that's always kind of melded together. And if you remember, Cal Ripken, I think, won it back in 1991 playing for a last place Orioles team. But he played a premium position and he had a great offensive year. So that's where the whole debate is. Maybe they should have like a silver slugger, like best offensive player. Maybe they name it after like Ted Williams or something. Like there's a lot of things that you can do to kind of parse out the awards to give the due to the players due. But MVP to me, he is the Mets MVP. And I don't know why he doesn't feel like an elite MVP type. Maybe it's because I saw that ground ball on Saturday night that should have been a double play that he didn't make. And I'm like, I know it was hit hard, but I'm like, Ordonez makes that play, right? A really good shortstop makes that play. Omar Vizquel makes that play. But that's unfair. That's, it's a hard play. Maybe that's what kind of clouds it. Maybe it's because he's not intense. I even wrote about this. Like, he's not Jalen Brunson. He's not Derek Jeter. He's not Mark Messier in personality. Is that why people don't feel it? Like, why do people not feel what the numbers are stating? He, again, stepped up today. They weren't going to hit that guy. He hit him, and he gave them a lead, and that's why they won. Because if that's a tie game, you never know. Things could go a lot different.
Yeah, absolutely.